Hey friends, welcome back to Food Prep Guide. If you are someone who has struggled to keep up with watering your garden, or maybe you're someone who you are at the gardening stage where you are just ready to kind of put the watering more on autopilot and make it less labor intensive, then this video is for you. That's kind of the stage where I am at. I have always tended to be a rain dependent gardener. I'm not someone who is out here watering 30 minutes to an hour every day. Never have been. But the problem is the more and more years that go by, the kind of more intense our drought seasons tend to be, and I am really getting negatively impacted by not being out here watering for 30 minutes to an hour every day. And I've been trying to find solutions. You've probably, if you've ever seen any of our gardening videos, you have probably seen our drip irrigation setup. I don't love it. It's my first year with it. I am not super knowledgeable about drip irrigation, so it is very possible that is user error. So I'm going to be just educating myself a little bit more about that before I bring anything to you about it. I don't want to bring anything to you that I don't love and personally recommend and use myself. But I have found a new recent solution that I am loving, and it's so exciting to me that I am thinking about implementing it across my garden, the entire garden, and that is this sprinkler hose, not to be confused with a soaker hose. I first learned about this from the Millennial Gardener, and I tried it, and I have had it in my garden for about 3 weeks now, and it is meeting all of my needs, so I wanted to go ahead and bring it to y'all.
If you would like help planning a productive garden, scroll down to the description box of this video and click this link for a free garden printable. We calculated quantities for a year's supply of the most common garden vegetables and organized them into a neat chart to help you plan. We'll send it straight to your inbox. If you're new here, we invite you to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming tutorials on gardening and food preservation, food storage, and more.
So I will bring you up a lot closer here in just a minute and give you a really close-up view of what this looks like, but I did want to give you kind of the bird's eye view. So this is a approximately 50 to 60 foot row of garden beds right here, and you can see that I have this sprinkler hose strung up with these strings. Now I am still testing out different ways. I'm going to talk to you about 3 ways that I have tested out that I'm trying to figure out which way I want to do. But essentially what it is, well, here's the bird's eye view. Now let me bring you up closer and talk to you about how it's designed and how it works. Okay, so like I said, not to be confused with the soaker hose. I have used soaker hoses in the past and they are just not as efficient as they seem like they would be. This is a sprinkler hose, and the white, you can see it's solid on one side and it's striped on the other, and the white stripe, that's the side where the water comes out. And I'm trying and see if you can see any of the little holes. You really can't see them. I mean, they're microscopic. Yeah, I can't see any of the holes, which is incredible. So they are extremely tiny, but I'm going to turn it on in just a minute and show you. That's just a piece of dirt, it's not a hole. But I'm going to show you it in action so you can see it in action, but I just want to show you what it looks like. You can't hardly see any holes, but basically the water spritzes out of 2 sides at an angle. And this is the method that I have been using to water my concrete raised beds. We have a video on the pros and cons of concrete raised beds. I'll try to link that in the description box below if you're interested. But one of the cons is the fact that it dries out quickly because these concrete blocks, they absorb heat throughout the day, and then that heat can kind of dry out the soil. Now that can work for us in our favor when we're trying to get crops started earlier in the spring or go further in the fall, because that heat insulation can really work in our favor to help extend our harvest, together with these hoop structures, which are just naturally built into the holes of the concrete blocks. So I love it, but it is a con that we need to consider and that we need to address. I thought drip irrigation was going to be the answer, but so far it just hasn't been. But let me go get this turned on, and then I'm going to talk to you while we're kind of watching how it disperses water, and talk to you about the 3 different ways that I have used it and which methods I'm preferring so far. Okay, the hose is running. Let me try to get you up close so you can see the streams of water. They're kind of hard to see. But the holes seem like they're spaced about every 6 inches. You see those 2 streams of water there? And the streams are kind of angled out a little bit. I've just got this hooked up to a regular hose. So this is not something that you need a drip irrigation system for, which is what I'm loving. It's just a regular old hose that feeds it. I'm trying to get a good angle and I'm having a hard time getting a good angle, but I hope you can, what I'm trying to show you is how the water is dripping through this netting, and how it is just providing like a gentle mist almost onto these beds. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the grocery store produce section when they have those misters on and they're trying to keep like the lettuces and stuff fresh and cool. That's kind of what it reminds me of, which is exactly what we want for this type of raised bed. But anyway, let me talk to you about the 3 different ways that I have used it. So first, I'll just talk about how I'm using it now, which is using strings to just tie it up onto these trellises and letting it hang like that. So the reason why I did this is because the other 2 methods seemed like they weren't providing even distribution of water. So the first method I tried was to simply lay the hose directly on the soil, and that's actually, if you look at the Amazon listing, which I'll link the product in the description box below. But if you read through the Amazon listing, it does recommend that if you want to use it as drip irrigation, you should just lay it directly on the soil with the white stripe facing down on your soil, and let it soak that way. That's the way I first tried. That's the way I tried first. And the reason I didn't love it is because it didn't seem like the outer bands of the raised beds were getting very moist, and the inner section of the raised bed was overly moist. So the distribution of water just wasn't very even. So I thought, okay, the next method I tried was I clipped them to these hoops right here and tried to do a center line all the way down. That method was an improvement on putting it straight down on the soil because it was providing a lot more even moisture distribution. The issue that I kept having was securing them to where they wouldn't slide off. So a lot of times when I would turn the water on, or just, you know, when I'm running this, I'm usually running it for about 20 minutes at a time. And when I would come back out to check on it, or I would be working in the garden elsewhere, and I would, you know, hear a noise, and I would look over, and the whole hose would be slipped off of the bed. So I haven't found a way to secure them tightly to these hoops, but if I could, that's probably the method that I would use, because I think it's the best balance between distribution of moisture and not wasting water, which brings me to the method that I'm using right now, which is excellent for watering the beds evenly, but I do feel like I'm wasting a lot of water with it being this high up. I don't know if you can see my weed fabric here, but there is just pools of water already forming like outside of the beds, and that's just unnecessary. I feel like it's just wasted water. It's happening on the other sides too. And so if I could figure out a way to latch them to these hoops, I think that's what I would do. But I thought about bringing this video to y'all because this is just such an easy, it's like an instant drip irrigation without having to have this full-blown system, without having to spend a whole bunch of money on something that you're not sure is going to work for you, and without a whole bunch of time. I mean, it took me 5 minutes to unroll this hose to hook it up to this feeder hose here, which is just your standard hose connection, nothing fancy. And it's just incredible. Like I'm really kicking myself for not finding this earlier, and I'm so thankful to the Millennial Gardener for bringing that to us. And now I want to bring it to y'all just as an option, to be able to water your garden more efficiently during those times when it is extremely hot outside and you either can't or don't want to be outside for an hour straight, watering your garden, especially when you have a garden the size that I have. It's just not feasible to spend that much time in 95 to 100 degree weather out here. But at the same time, we put all this hard work into the garden. It would really stink to let drought conditions just totally ruin our harvests and our yields. And so I think this solution, like I said, I've been using it for about 3 weeks and I am loving it so far. I'm going to try to walk down. The reason why I said I'm going to try is because because I have it hung up. A lot of the hose sections are kind of tilted a little bit, so I'm going to get soaking wet probably trying to do this. But I just wanted to show y'all how evenly the soil is getting moist. It really is just a very efficient method of watering. And I kind of think having this tool, this insect cover, which is just tool, this isn't technically marketed insect cover, this is just tool that I've picked up from a store. But I kind of wonder if that's kind of even helping this this kind of dripping down sensation happening. Because you have some of the water lines like this going straight through, but then you have little drips that are happening all throughout down here. So I think in combination with the netting, it's even better. But I am just very pleased with this. A kitty ripped a hole in my tool a couple days ago, so I'm having to come out here and make sure I'm keeping that covered up. I might have to replant some collard greens because that's where the kitty came through and ripped up a whole bunch of collard greens, so I haven't replanted those yet. But this has been especially convenient for my carrot bed because carrots need to stay moist pretty consistently, especially to germinate, but they really need consistent moisture all throughout their growing season, which has been pretty hard. I'm missing some string here. I need to get this hung up. See, this is what was happening when I tried to clip it to these hoops. I need to get this one last string up here to hold it kind of right there and hold it in place. But I hope you can kind of see how evenly moist the soil is, that it's already very nice and dark. I should have gotten you a good clip of the soil before because it was very light because it hadn't rained. And it was, it's just you can see a big difference when you can see the color of the soil change from light to dark, and you can kind of see where the dry spots are. You can see where the oversaturated spots are. And with this sprinkler hose, it is just a nice, even watering. So it's a product that I'm excited about and wanted to just share it with you as an option. I will be linked in the description box below, and I hope it's helpful to y'all. We'll see y'all next time. Bye.